It's lovely up here, isn't it, James? Yes, another day, another developer, and I'm currently standing on the roof of Ubisoft Montreal in Canada, one of the world's largest development studios. Beneath my feet right now, there are over 20 teams working on projects. Lots of stuff we can't see. Stuff that we can see includes Prince of Persia, Far Cry 2, and Shaun White's Snowboarding. So let's go and take a look.
Games development in Canada is thriving, and the city of Montreal is arguably the jewel in its crown. Generous tax breaks and government subsidies for the local industry have provided a model for nurturing creativity that is fast becoming the envy of the world. Not least in Britain, which gets none of this support, thanks Gordon, and has been losing top talent to North America for years as a result. Put simply, if you're an international games publisher looking to expand operations, right now there are few more attractive places to be than Canada. So, here in Quebec's largest city, you'll find the Eidos studio currently working on Deus Ex 3, EA's Army of Two team, and Immersion, the Rumble company who famously and successfully sued Sony over its DualShock pads. But the pimp daddy of the local dev scene is Ubisoft Montreal, the studio responsible for several of the biggest franchises of the past decade, including Splinter Cell, Rainbow Six, Prince of Persia, and Assassin's Creed, which, yes, internet fans, means you know who works here too.
Well, right now, the Montreal studio, we have 1,600 employees, and you have a little bit of everything. You have programmers, you have artists, you have modelers, you have producers, and the number of team, we have, my God, 20-something projects for sure, going on at the moment. Some of them announced, some of them, unannounced, obviously.
So confident of ensnaring top new talent is Ubisoft, it's already announced plans to add another 1,000 developers by 2030. But they ain't all gonna fit in here. Imagine the smell. And the overspill is already in evidence, with the team working on the sequel to Far Cry based in this, let's be honest, slightly less glamorous building around the corner. We're guessing this is Montreal's equivalent of Croydon. Anyway, the original Far Cry, awesome game. You probably remember it. Came out in 2004 on PC, beautiful tropical island, made by our favourite German studio Crytek. It was also published by Ubisoft, who promptly retained the rights over the name, churning out a number of spin-offs on console. Crytek released its spiritual successor to Far Cry last year, in the shape of the rather good and once again island-based Crysis. But Team Montreal is now readying its own full sequel to the expansive shooter. First off, gone are the golden beaches and palm trees of the tropical island. For the sequel, Ubisoft has drawn its inspiration from the heart of the dark continent.
We're trying to capture the kind of quintessential feeling of Africa. We're not a Clancy game, we're not trying to be politically real.
But while this may seem worlds apart from the original, the team believes it actually remains truer to the essence of Far Cry than it would have simply by building more castles in the sand.
And that's, I think, the magic of Far Cry. And I think you have to recapture that, or you're not making really a sequel to Far Cry, you're just sort of cashing in on the tropical island. Thing is, players have been to tropical islands in Boiling Point, in Just Cause, in Lost every night on TV. They've been there in Crysis, in Far Cry on consoles. All of these games and movies and television, you see this place, and it's not that exciting adventure that it was when Far Cry did it first.
Most excitement with Far Cry 2 surrounds its open world nature. The game's environment is huge and presented seamlessly, so how you play, where you go, what you do is pretty much up to you.
We did some research early on to figure out how big various open world games were, and the numbers we have say that we're bigger than Oblivion, but I don't know how big we are compared to Grand Theft Auto. But yeah, I think we're a little bit bigger than Oblivion was. I think they were they were 40 square kilometers or something like that, and we're 50.
While Ubisoft is making sure that players are never far from moments of intense action, the option to take time out and simply savour the luscious environments is one that may hold particular appeal after emerging from a gruelling firefight or tense infiltration.
Like sometimes it just feels good to just take a breather from being chased by guys with like mounted grenade launchers on the back of their vehicles and look at the world. So I mean, yeah, it's a shooter, and yes, it's an action game, and yes, there's all kinds of, you know, intense action to it, but at the same time there's lots of opportunity to kind of explore, take a breath, take a look around, and appreciate the world for the simulation of it.
Freedom isn't just restricted to where you go either. The game is designed to accommodate all manner of styles and approaches, which can be tailored according to weapons loadouts and even the time of day when you choose to embark on a mission. We've seen all versions up close. On a beefy PC, Far Cry 2 is serious eye candy. Its visual charms aren't quite so striking on console, but the attention to detail is uniformly superb across all platforms.
I think a lot of people in the last few years have really tried to crack the nut, if you want, of the open world shooter problem. I hope that will become kind of the benchmark for that. I hope people will say that's the game you got to beat if you're going to make an open world shooter, because if they say that, I know we have a 3-year lead time.
Far Cry 2 is coming to PC, PS3 and 360 later this year. You can read our in-depth hands-on impressions of the latest E3 build by clicking on the red button. Back in the main building, it's not all sequels, you big cynic. And one team has been put together to tackle a genre that is uncharted territory for Ubisoft: extreme sports. Now, even with the assistance of the border they call the Flying Tomato, Shaun White's Snowboarding has a lot to do to out-trick gaming's superheroes of snow. From Amped and 1080 to the biggest star of the gaming slopes, EA's SSX, which incidentally is also made in Montreal. It might not be immediately apparent to the naked eye, Shaun White's Snowboarding is built upon the impressive technical foundations of Assassin's Creed. Scale is Altair's biggest gift to the slopes, but there are added benefits.
The animation system is robust in the Assassin's Creed engine. We can blend 16 animations at once, which is a huge help to us. But we've actually really managed to achieve more than we had hoped in view distance. We weren't sure that we'd be able to pull that off, but we've really achieved some big results.
And since the majority of the team is working on an extreme sports game for the very first time, frankly, they'll take all the help they can get.
It's tough because, we don't know exactly what to do. We've never really been here before. Thankfully, a lot of people on the team are hardcore snowboarders, and so a lot of that basic information we have by default, which is great.
Don't expect Shaun White to shake up the snowboarding scene in the same way EA's Skate did with the on-wheels variety. That's not the goal. The team has instead identified a gap between the respectful realism of Amped and the high-speed histrionics of SSX, where it hopes it can leave its own distinctive mark in the snow. Hopefully not a yellow one.
Everything that's come out in the past has been, really close to snowboarding. For the most part, it's respected snowboarding, or it's gone, completely arcade, and we're looking for something that fits nicely in the middle and appeals to both crowds.
But what we're most excited about at this stage is the promise of persistently populated pistes. If you're hooked up to the internet, the game's slopes will be filled with real players, whether you're engaged in multiplayer or just riding solo.
Really wanted to get across the idea about, the whole community idea, because it's really important in snowboarding. Everybody snowboards with their crew. You'll have a group of your friends that you always go out with. And just the whole idea of having the mountain full of, real people, it's essentially a large lobby. Being able to bring your friends to where you are, and you can all participate in a competition together, or you can film one another going down the hill and upload the videos to the website.
But for that true snowboarding feel, the Wii version has one big advantage: the balance board.
The main challenge, of course, was the control, of course, and the accessibility. If we cannot provide accessibility to the Wii audience, it's a fail.
The game will be fully playable using both Wiimote or balance board. The balance board itself responds to movements, even our embarrassingly clumsy ones, really rather well, it has to be said. Shaun White will be grinding on PS3, 360 and Wii this winter. For our detailed hands-on impressions, hit the red button. here just ahead of E3 to take a look at just a handful of the games currently in development at the studio. We haven't a clue about what's going on in many of the dark corners here, but one title we do know about is Splinter Cell Conviction, shown off at Ubi Days 2007 and mysteriously absent this year. Well,
you know, right now I think we've said pretty much what we needed to say on Splinter Cell Conviction. I mean, it's like we really don't have anything to say at the moment.
where's the fun in that? But in all seriousness, with Ubisoft doing little to dampen the wild internet speculation, is the team affected by all the chatter?
You know, I wouldn't say that they're totally like unconcerned about what people say or what, you know, the gaming community is saying, but they're really, really committed, you know, to releasing the game right now, and they're working hard, and this is their primary focus.
Gotcha. And good luck, guys. Then there's Assassin's Creed, which after all the hype we were a bit disappointed by in the end, despite the astounding technical achievement. But it still sold over 6 million copies, so we wonder whether they're making a sequel.
That I can't tell. I'll let you guess. It is in our philosophy to build on franchises that were successful, so I don't see why we wouldn't do it with Assassin's Creed.
One of the other great benefits to Ubisoft of Assassin's Creed, aside from it making shitloads of money, is its versatile engine. We've already seen what it can do for lovers of white powder, but it's also the beating heart and arguably the biggest game currently in development at Ubisoft, the new Prince of Persia. Next year is the 20th anniversary of Jordan Mechner's fantasy action adventure. How old does that make you feel? After several sequels, the series got a stunning new lease of life from Ubisoft in 2003 with Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, the first in a critically acclaimed trilogy that included Warrior Within and The Two Thrones. 3 years on, the Prince is back, and this time he's brought a friend.
It's a second or a third, depending on how you look at it, a second or a third generation next-gen game, and we don't want to sell it as crowd, or open world, or great combat system against hordes of enemies, because all of those things wear off very quickly. You know, Resident Evil 4 in particular, there's not really a single back-of-the-box feature about Resident Evil 4 that anyone is going to say that's the thing that defines that game.
Well, if you'll forgive us, Ben, the back-of-the-box feature everyone is talking about is Alika, your AI companion. Put simply, if she doesn't work, then neither will the game.
Players actually care about Alika, and she's not pissing them off and getting lost and falling behind and saying stupid things and doing stupid things, so that they actually think this lady's cool. That's an accomplishment we really set for us. We would really love to achieve.
Her acrobatic abilities and magical powers promise to add an extra dimension to the traditional platforming and puzzle solving.
What we've tried to do is create a game that's extremely accessible in terms of its core experience, which is I run, I jump, I flip, I fight, I save the world. And I feel like a badass. I don't know if I can say that or not, but I feel super cool the entire time I'm doing it.
You don't get to play the game, sadly, but can't help but be utterly charmed by the magnificent visuals. And the series' pedigree gives good reason to be optimistic that the team can pull off this tremendously ambitious project. We said this about Assassin's Creed, of course, but we're crossing everything that the Prince delivers on his promise. Although there's still much work to be done, Ubisoft assures us it'll be out on 360, PS3, PC and DS this Christmas.
Well, if I want a job here next year, it better be.
Fuller impressions are yours with a click of the red button. So, with our tour of duty nearly at an end, one burning question remains. Just where is Jade Raymond?
Jade is in the building. Jade is, in fact, in the building. She's doing quite well. She's on her next project, working hard, of course.
Yeah, she's up on the 5th floor now. 5th floor. Yeah, you'll have to hunt her down. She used to be right over there. Assassin's Creed, was developed right beside us, so that was great because Jade was there, but because the Assassins team was there, it was beneficial to us. But Unfortunately, I do not get to gaze upon Miss Lovely Raymond's face quite so often now because she's moved up to the 5th floor.
Oh, she's resting. No, she's back here. She's working on projects.
Hear that? Projects, plural. So that would be I Am Alive, just announced at E3. And what could the other one be?